On this episode of Dingerball, Logan and Jacob are joined by Trevor Hooth, who is a baseball blogger, former intern of the Toledo Mud Hens, and knows just a little bit about baseball. He joins us in the discussion of top trades, MLB top signings of this offseason, and also we're going to talk about digging for some gold with some prospects. But first, here's a teaser. You know what? I'm going all in. He's Mike Trout calling it. Hello and welcome to Dingerball. Today we have a special guest, Trevor Hooth. And we'll let Trevor introduce himself to you because he's done a lot of cool things. He's wrote some blogs. He's also been an intern, I believe, for the Toledo Mud Hens. But first, how's it going, Trevor?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and let our audience know some of the great things that you've done over your course because I know you've done a lot of stuff for baseball in general.
Yeah, well, you mentioned I was an intern with the Toledo Mud Hens. That was pretty cool. I got to, see how things happen behind the scenes there and tweet form too, which was kind of fun. I've been blogging for way too many years now already, and I'm only 24, so that's fun. But right now I'm with, Bless You Boys with SB Nation, Prospects Live. I do some work with them, a site called The Dynasty Guru, and I might be forgetting some. It's a lot of stuff, but I do a lot of prospects focused things.
Absolutely. And can't wait to talk to you today about prospects, and that's pretty much our whole entire episode with a little bit of signings in the middle. And we're going to be talking about the top prospects in the major leagues and the minor leagues here over this next year and who we might be seeing be really important. But first, Hennessy, how's it going?
Yo, Logan, it's going well. Good to be here. Glad to have Trevor here. He has a lot of information on prospects. I mean, I'm sitting here with him right now, and just stuff's coming up as we're talking right now. Even it's just insane the amount of information he has over here on his laptop.
Exactly. It's just kind of impressive the wealth of knowledge that he has here today, and it'll be really fun to talk with him. Especially about some of these signings that we've seen, like guys like Garrett Cole. Like, what do you think about the Garrett Cole deal with how much money he got? Do you think he's gonna be worth it?
The thing with that deal is if he's not the exact same pitcher he was, it's going to be really tough to be in New York, I think, because they have an expectation coming in. He could be really good. I mean, it's kind of happened at the beginning of the CC Sabathia contract when they signed that, where he wasn't the guy he was the season before when he earned that contract. So eventually they learned to love him. But I mean, he's a great pitcher. He's not going to be bad by any means. It's just always tough to play in New York. And I mean, yeah, he's worth the money. He's one of the best pitchers in the game, and that really solidifies their rotation.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But I think the biggest concern here is that he's now in New York. Not a fan of that.
I mean, no baseball fan likes seeing him in New York. That's a place they wanted him not to go. They wanted to see him join, the Angels and see him go play out there in California in his homeland. But it doesn't look like we're going to see that. Only thing that worries me about him out there in New York is the fact of the stadium he plays in and also the teams he plays against. That he plays in not a very good pitcher-friendly league. He plays in a very hitter-friendly division out there in the AL East. And I think that's going to be something that's going to impact him quite a lot. 'Cause you saw that with the Yankees' ERA and everything last year and the amount of home runs they gave up. And those two were strongly correlated because of that. But I think that's a really big thing that he's going to have to watch out for.
I mean, it's not like Minute Maid Park was exactly the most helpful thing to him. You still hit a lot of home runs there. I saw something from Darren Willman today, who's the creator of Baseball Savant, where one of the home runs that Alex Bregman hit would not have gone out anywhere except Minute Maid Park. He actually created a whole outlay of it we're watching right now. So there is a lot of home runs. I mean, yeah. The only other place where it would have gone out by distance is Fenway, but the monster would have gotten in the way.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very interesting overlay. And the only part that I would say is that to me, you got the right field line in Boston, which is going to hurt with the amount of left-handers that play there, or are probably going to
Yeah,
be coming up.
just the whole point is that it's not going to be too much of an issue for him. I don't think the park factor because he played with a short porch to a righty pull side, and even with the bouncy ball, as I've heard it called, I mean, it's really he didn't get hurt that much. I mean, he was by far the best pitcher in the league, even though he had a 1.23 home run per nine last year.
I guess we'll see over this course of the season, but the fans' expectations are pretty high. I mean,
Oh, they're through the roof.
Well, his
They're already,
third.
they're already trying to describe themselves as the World Series champions for next year, and we haven't even played spring training yet.
Bear in mind, the Browns also said they would win a World Series. But I mean, his over 13 strikeouts per nine will play.
Oh, that'll definitely play.
yeah,
He's,
I
he,
think
he's got a 100-mile-per-hour fastball. That'll play anywhere with one of the better curveballs. He's in a good spot no matter where he ended up.
I think one of the stats I saw too was their leading strikeout pitcher for their starting rotation had like 180 strikeouts and he had like 326, I believe. So
Yeah.
that in general right there will help him out a ton there because they're not going to hit the ball. There's no way they're going to hit a home run. So in a hitter-friendly park, that doesn't matter. It's neutral everywhere
Paxton?
else. I think it was Paxton. They're like 182 or something like that. That's just impressive. Almost doubling the amount of production their leading starting pitcher had and the amount of strikeouts, which is just crazy to think about.
Well, I mean, Cole was worth 7.4 Fangraphs WAR last year, and just for reference, we use a Cardinal guy for Logan. Jack Flaherty was worth 4.7.
Go Jack.
Logan, stop.
Yeah, I still love my guy Jack. I want him to win the Cy Young next year, but that's a different story for a different day.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
But talking about potential award winners, especially for next year, what about Anthony Rendon going out to the Angels? 7-year contract, $245 million. It's a pretty fat contract. And I think that he deserved it after all he did this past year. And I think it's going to be good for him to get out in LA. And hopefully he enjoys it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that signing from Los Angeles. And it's a lot now. They're essentially top three hitters are protected now,
Yeah.
which is a big part to have because people are going to have to pitch to. I'll let you say his name because I know you love saying it, but Mike Trout.
Mike Trout.
Who?
Mike
Yeah, who's that guy?
Trout. Only the best baseball player alive. Don't get me started on him.
But that's a very formidable 2-3-4 now with Trout, Rendon, and Ohtani.
Hey, don't forget about Pujols, man. I'm just kidding.
Pujols is going to be down to like 6-7 from what the projections I've seen as of now.
I just wish he was still good just for the love I had of him, but that just won't happen.
Oh, he's still a good player. He's just not going to be an elite all-star talent anymore. And it just comes with being older. And guy's averaging, I think it's like 4 or 5 miles per hour harder than when he was a rookie.
And with they're getting more drop too,
And-
because people are more aware of things like spin rates and pitch design, and so they're designing these pitches to be as filthy as possible, and that doesn't help either.
Well, think about it. Changeups in the day, Greg Maddux had one of the best changeups. And all it did was just go, it was just like a 6-inch drop. That's just average now. And then you got to tail the fact that it's now running to arm side. Like Scherzer's circle changeup literally moves like a I don't know what you would call it. Like a slider, like a lefty slider.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Design all that stuff, it's insane. I started to get into a little bit of it, but it's a lot of science.
Exactly. I think that's something that's really changing the game. It's pretty cool to see that. And kind of talking about that pitch design and that trend, Steven Strasburg also got a 7-year, $245 million deal, like his buddy Anthony Rendon. And, seeing him do the pitch design thing in the World Series where, even just like design of seeing that, hey, like I was tipping my pitches in the first inning and saving a game for the Nationals. I think that was pretty huge. And technology really is coming in big nowadays in baseball. So what do you think about Steven Strasburg and also that moment in the World Series? I know Hennessy and I talked about it, but what did you think about it, Trevor?
Well, first of all, technology was coming up big for the Astros. The old drum technology being on a trash can.
I mean, it's kind of ingenious because, like, we're talking, we sit here, we're talking about all this technology is growing the game, technology is growing the game. they use stuff that we've had. One of the things they've had since literally about the 70s when TVs were created. And the other one we've had since beginning of time with the garbage can. Like that's just a genius setup, and it's basically it's minimal technology.
It's ingenious until you get caught.
Oh yeah, because then everyone knows what's going on now.
Because you can go back and find all the videos now and hear the trash cans.
Oh, it's very loud.
John Boy did that on Twitter. You can see a lot of it. But back to Strasburg, there's no other way to say it. He's a good pitcher, and he earned his money, and I'm very surprised he stayed. I thought he was going to go to San Diego and go home, just like I thought Cole was going to go to the Angels. But it was a really good move by the Nationals, and it makes sense for Strasburg too, because he gets to stay and be a part of that three-headed dragon of Corbin and Scherzer, and now he's the third head. So good move by him.
The one thing that made me think that he was going to stay with the Nationals was, I think it was when I was watching one of the World Series games or maybe one of the NLCS games, and they were talking about Strasburg and how he was so happy how his team treated him after he had an injury, and they were still like trying to help him get back, and they were not making sure that he wasn't going to be rushed back. And he said that was a big reason that he might potentially sign with them again. And I wonder if that's like the big reason why he signed with the Nationals, because of how they treated him. And I mean, honestly, they've been pretty good to him his whole entire career, and especially with this past World Series. I mean, it'd be kind of tough to leave them after that.
Yeah, they're going to give him $245 million over 7 years. I think that's another pretty solid reason.
Yeah.
I'd sign just about anywhere for that much money. I'd sign just about anywhere for half that amount of money. I'd sign anywhere for about $100,000.
I'd sign anywhere for a Snickers bar. I'd dust off the old arm.
Absolutely. Who wouldn't? But might as well hop on to the next guy here, and that's Madison Bumgarner, a guy who was
Don't like it.
super good back in his day, and he's still not shabby. I mean, honestly, he's still a really good pitcher. I think that he could add a little bit to the Diamondbacks, and it's kind of interesting to see a 5-year, $85 million contract. Hopefully he's worth that much, but I think that's a very fair value deal for what they need, and honestly, it might be a little bit more of a contender out there, but it's kind of tough with the Dodgers.
Like, yeah, he's a very solid pitcher. He's been a solid pitcher. You've seen what he can do in the postseason. But he's 30 years old. By the time this contract's up, he's going to be 35. And the question I've always had is he worth 5 years, $85 million to be pitching into his legitimately mid-30s?
Scherzer.
And I don't think he will be. I mean, maybe his batting ability does help with that a little bit, but it's not enough for that much of a difference in the price tag, basically.
I mean, Scherzer, man.
I mean, the thing with Bumgarner is that he doesn't have a ton of velocity. He never really has, but the exit velocity is below league average. His curveball spin is above average. His fastball spin's about as good as you're going to get, and so he gets a ton of movement. People don't hit the ball hard off him, and he strikes people out. So that's where the contract comes from. And it was rumored he wanted over $100 million. So if you're getting $85 million or $85 million over 5 years, that's a pretty good deal. And the Diamondbacks have really been smart lately. I'm going to get into some prospects here, but they traded Greinke for a set of prospects led by Seth Beer, who's
He's going to be
a pretty good bat. He's a nice power bat. They traded Jazz Chisholm to get Zach Gallen. They traded Goldschmidt and got a couple of MLB ready guys in Carson Kelly and Luke Weaver. So they've really done a good job expediting this quote unquote rebuild, because they have these young guys who are up now, and I think Bumgarner was a decent addition, at least for the next couple of years. I don't know what it's going to be like at the end of the contract, but as of right now, he's still coming off where he's able to spin the ball well, and that usually is good.
No, I agree. I think it's a good signing for the first 2 years of the contract, maybe 3. But once you get to year 4, year 5, is it still going to be a good contract? And that's where I have questions about it, because he is an older guy. He has that funky delivery where something can go wrong with his arm in the first place. And obviously he's a pitcher. Every pitcher kind of has a time limit on their elbow. But just kind of looking at it that way. And then obviously, like you said, with the signings they made the last couple of days.
I mean, a 5-year contract, even if you are getting 3 good years out of it, that's really what you're probably looking for. I mean, that's still over half the contract of it being good. There are no opt-outs. That's what I was trying to look up here. $15 million deferred, $5 million each of 2021.
There's a no trade list for like 5 teams too.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, I think it's a good contract. And the Diamondbacks are really, I think, just trying to push and be competitive until some of these good prospects that they have come up, in terms of Seth Beer and in terms of Alec Thomas is their top guy. Christian Robinson, Corbin Carroll are all outfielders, but they're all pretty high ceiling guys. John Duplantier has lost some shine, but he's going to be pitching probably more in a relief role.
I saw him
But
actually
there's
pitch
some
live.
other
He was good.
guys. Yeah.
Tabor was good. I saw him live in Kane County last year.
I mean, Buskauskas is also good. They traded for him as well. So there's a few guys. There's the other guy in the Goldschmidt deal, Andy Young, too, hanging out on their top list. But they've done a good job compiling prospects, and now they have guys who can be competing up until those prospects are ready. And I think that's a lot of what this Bumgarner thing does for them. Also, he's got horses in Arizona, and I love that.
He'll be riding on off days. Obviously, he doesn't get in bench fights. You saw that. He likes to go back into the clubhouse instead.
Yeah.
But that could have just been an injured thing. I wouldn't want to fight Madison Bumgarner.
No. He's a pretty tough guy.
He cuts down trees in the offseason.
Yeah.
Come on.
He's like a lumberjack, man. I wouldn't want to face him at all. I think he's a pretty good pitcher, and I think he's going to have a really good time out there in Arizona. Like Trevor said, I think his stuff is really what makes him a great pitcher. He's not like a guy who's going to blaze it past you. And, like you made a note of guys who, as they get older, they traditionally don't get better. But, I mean, throwing a guy like Max Scherzer, he just keeps getting better as time goes on. So,
yeah, but Bumgarner has been getting progressively worse. Obviously, he had that injury a couple of years ago that didn't help him. But, I mean, he hasn't been as good as he was in that World Series run, the last one he had, where he was just unreal.
Yeah.
But to be fair, it's hard to be that unreal as well.
It really was. And he's going to go down in the history books for being a legend in that one postseason where he just absolutely threw his arm out. And that's what teams are looking for out of him. Moving on here to our next section, which we can call our red box section after our last episode. We have 4 guys who signed 1-year contract deals, and I think some of them are pretty intriguing and some of them are a little but we'll go ahead here first.
The first one I love.
Didi Gregorius, really good, 1 year, $14 million. I love that deal. I think it's a really good deal for the Phillies.
Well, Philadelphia was really close.
Yeah.
They were close to being a high-level contender. They were close last year. They were considered contenders, and they kind of just didn't perform the way they should have.
Mm-hmm.
Didi's going to help them out at shortstop a lot.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's got to get a full season in. How many games did he play last year? I think close to like 80.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 82 games. He played half a season. If you get him a full season, he is a very good shortstop, and he's definitely going to be an upgrade for them because he doesn't do a lot wrong. I don't feel like he doesn't strike out a crazy amount, and he finds a way to put the balls in play. He doesn't have the hardest high hit percentage in the league either, but he's solid on a contender.
And then, I mean, a couple that I'm kind of meh about are the Mets with Michael Wacha and Rick Porcello. I mean, one of those guys you're replacing with is Zach Wheeler. You're replacing Zach Wheeler probably with Porcello. And then you have Wacha, which is just like, I mean, personally, I've seen him with the Cardinals, and I've seen him do really well. And I hope he does really well because I was a big fan of him. But I don't know if he has the stuff or the accuracy anymore to really be that kind of pitcher he used to be. But, I mean, never say never, I guess. So there is that. And what do you think about that, Trevor?
Well, do you remember in Moneyball when Brad Pitt says, "We are looking for 3 guys to recreate this one guy"?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what's going on. You're not going to be able to recreate Zach Wheeler once you lose Zach Wheeler. So you're trying to find that production that you lost with Wacha and Porcello. That being said, you still have DeGrom, Syndergaard, Stroman.
Yeah. I mean, they're not in a bad spot there at all. But here's my other question for both of you guys, I guess. So you're paying Porcello $10 million for this year. You're paying Wacha $3 million for this year. Do you think there's a way that you could have made the contract stretched out over enough time where you could afford Zach Wheeler and pay him $13 million a year, essentially?
I don't know that Zach Wheeler was ever going to come back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of him is injury as well, just because he played for the Mets. But, I just don't know that he was coming back. He had a chance to leave and go be a top guy somewhere else. He was not going to be a top-name pitcher in New York, and I don't know that mattered much to him, but there was just a lot of opportunity elsewhere. And I don't think the Mets wanted to spend that kind of money to bring him in, although the guy who just bought the team, that agent Brody's nuts. So I guess whatever.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, and I do agree that maybe he probably didn't want to come back, especially considering nobody wants to be the number 4 starter, especially when you have 1-2 level arm talent, which is what Zach Wheeler has when he's healthy. But the only problem is with a lot of teams is I don't think he's going to get that big of a contract where it's going to be what he's probably looking for, just because he's been injured so much, and it's hard to want to touch him when he's getting injured. Like, it's a big investment for a guy that hasn't been able to stay healthy.
I mean, I see what you're saying there. But, I mean, the pitcher he could be, I think that it'd be worth it. But I don't think he was ever going to stay. I think he was going to go somewhere else where he could be more so of the star that he wants to be. Because he's overshadowed over in New York. Like, I mean, with Syndergaard and DeGrom and even Harvey, like, you just have all these big figures over there that just constantly were over top of him. And it was kind of tough for him to really shine. And now he gets the opportunity to shine with Philly, and hopefully he does. I mean, it's a good thing.
He's probably already higher than Arrieta, and Nola had a down year. There's a lot of opportunity there, and he really helps their rotation, because they were really upset that they went and got Real Muto and Harper and whoever else, and didn't compete.
Wheeler's coming in, Didi's coming in.
He was already 30. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that he's getting over 20 million a year.
But
isn't he? Is that right?
Yeah, but he's a baseball savant, darling.
Yeah, that's true. But still, that's a lot of money to be paying a guy that gets injured as much as he does.
I guess we will see in these upcoming months whenever they get ready to start going into spring training. And then another one that kind of spiked my interest was Wade Miley going to the Reds. And honestly, I didn't hear too much about this move as much. Like, I didn't hear many people reacting or anything, but I think it's a pretty good move for the Reds because Wade Miley wasn't a bad pitcher last year, especially for the Astros. And I think there's a lot of opportunity in the NL Central. And I mean, the Reds are trying to make moves, trying to be better, but it's just tough in the division. And
there's a lot of competition there in that rotation. I mean, they have Trevor Bauer, Luis Castillo's there, and a couple guys I'm forgetting. But what I like about Wade Miley is that, remember when he was good in Milwaukee? I'm fairly certain that was under the tutelage of Derek Johnson, who's the pitching coach in Cincinnati now. Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's Sonny Gray and Anthony DiSclafani there as well. So Wade Miley's going to be.
Gosman.
Yeah,
He's not out of the question.
No, neither is Miley. Sal Romano also is probably in the question. But Wade Miley's going to be competing for that 5th spot, and I just love what the Reds have been doing in terms of helping improve their pitching. It started last year when they got Derek Johnson because he is a master. Notice how Chase Anderson just declined hard once Derek Johnson left. Also, I mean, they brought in Driveline Baseball. They brought in Kyle Boddy for their minor leagues. So they have a lot of Driveline guys in there now, and that's going to be huge. That's why, and this is just a habit from all the fantasy baseball I've been doing lately, but I'm buying all the Hunter Green stock that I can.
Well, the other guy I want to talk about, since we're on the topic of the Reds, first off, Wade Miley, we had a conversation about this back in the postseason, and because he was basically at number 4 in Houston. And we were talking about in a 4-game series, there is not a guy you want to face in that top 4 of that Astros rotation. There wasn't. And he is a part of that. And then the other guy that we're all kind of forgetting about is that Cincinnati might have the best 2-way player in baseball now with Michael Lorenzen.
yes, I am a fan of Michael Lorenzen, and I want him to start in center field on opening day.
He might. I wouldn't be surprised. Weirder things have happened.
I think it would put more people in the stadium. They'd be sold out every single day seeing him play out there. I mean, what's not to like?
They're a dark horse for the NL Central.
Yeah.
They're the big free agent bats left, and if they get one of those, they're not a dark horse. They are a front runner at that point.
I mean, they have to get a couple more guys, but as of today, with what they have, they're definitely gonna contend. They're gonna be better than Pittsburgh, easily.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's a laughing stock now.
They probably will end up being better than Chicago.
Yeah, they started better than Pittsburgh. Let's not pretend anything.
Everyone started better than Pittsburgh. The Miami Marlins are almost better than Pittsburgh.
I mean, you bring in Moose to play second especially in that hitter-friendly park. You got Suarez, Senzel, Aquino if he can figure it out, Winker, and then you just add in, let's say, Nick Castellanos, the doubles monster Nick Castellanos into that lineup. You
What are you
insert him
playing?
there. You probably take out Aquino. You probably give Aquino a bench bats because he kind of got figured out after a while.
Yeah, that's true. 'Cause, I mean, he was really hot at the beginning of his season, and then he kind of cooled off.
And Irvin and Winker are probably going to be platooning out and left. You can put Castellanos right there and right. I mean, I like Galvis at shortstop. I think they should maybe try to re-sign Jose Iglesias, or somebody should sign Jose Iglesias. But
I don't think they are. I think they're going to ride with Galvis.
yeah. But you have
And
Raciel
obviously,
Iglesias.
Rizzo and Lorenzen and Garrett at the back end of your bullpen. That's a dangerous trio. Not as good as obviously the team.
The Nasty Boys.
The Nasty Boys.
The Nasty Boys.
It's not the same.
Rob Dibble was my high school pitching coach.
Yeah.
One of the Nasty Boys.
Did you see that video of him when they bunted on him? The Cubs bunt on him, and he just pelts the dude in the back with the ball because he was pissed.
Absolutely. Really nice guy, by the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. So, moving on to that, even in like the same division here, we had the Cardinals recently just signed somebody, and we're going into the international signings here, like the guys who came over. First of those is Gwang Hyung Kim. I think I pronounced his name correctly. I hope I did. For a 2-year, $8 million contract. And hopefully he's a lefty the Cardinals need. Maybe he could work his way into the starting rotation, but we might be seeing him in the bullpen here. And that'll be something interesting. And also Yoshihito Tomo, I don't know how to say his name. Toshigusko, I don't know. But 2 years and $12 million for Tampa Bay. And
just call him Yoshi.
Yeah, Yoshi.
That's what we're going to end up calling him.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he told people to call him at his press conference today.
Sugo.
Hey, you know what? I tried.
Not well.
Hey, it's all that matters.
Logan doesn't do English.
Yeah, I don't speak English. But I think the international signings are going to be interesting to see, especially this next season. And, I mean, that Gwang Hong Kim guy, hopefully he does something for the Cardinals because I'm a big fan of that. And if he's a lefty starter, which is something the Cardinals have not really had too much of since, like, Jaime Garcia, which he was a pretty good starter back in his time. And Yoshi, and hopefully he's a pretty good bat, too, for Tampa Bay. What do you guys think?
He has been described as Kyle Schwarber comparison. So he's got a lot of power. There's videos of him absolutely destroying baseballs. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't really know how to compare the stuff. I know that he said that the Rays were the first team interested, and he was more interested in the ability to play than necessarily money. So that's going to be a nice place for him there in Tampa Bay. He'll probably settle into a DH kind of role. Maybe rotate through if they need to get Choi a DH spot or Yandy Diaz or someone. But yeah, no. So I think that's a good place for him to land.
That really helps Tampa. They'll probably be able to compete in what is going to be a very tough AL East again, which is what their goal should be. Even with as much of a small market team as they really are, and they're going to be for basically ever, unless they can find a way to get out of Tampa, which isn't going to happen for another 8 years.
The Red Sox aren't moving back up. They're pretty much looking to sell, so they're not looking like they're going to be a huge threat. It's kind of just the Yankees and Rays again.
Especially if like David Price or Mookie goes away.
Especially now, this is assuming that they don't have the injury problems they had last year. Because look at how good they were with the injury problems they had.
Right, they have depth for sure.
And now if you can get your top players to stay healthy, that is going to be the scariest thing in baseball. It definitely helps to not have to miss out time from. How much did Stanton miss? He missed like 2 months. Didi missed half a year. And they still are competing. They're still just rolling out guys that nobody outside of the baseball world knows, and they just play out of their minds for a month at a time. And that's just kind of how the Yankees were, and which really doesn't help Tampa. They got to be fighting for a wild card spot, basically.
I think Luke Voigt is a pivotal part of the Yankees this year, depending on how he does. Not that they won't be good without him, but he'll be an important piece.
Dropped 30 bombs this year.
I don't know why I can't think of his name. Who's the guy who played third base for New York last year?
Giovanni Urshela?
Urshela? He's going to be a big part of the team, too. If he can perform like he did last year, that just adds another level.
They have a lot of talent there. And I mean, honestly, out there in New York, there's no shortage of star players. So I mean, you look around the whole entire diamond, and on paper, their team looks really, really good. And I mean, like we were talking about earlier, even with Garrett Cole, like it's gonna be tough. But I mean, like the Red Sox really aren't going to compete very much left there right now. Like, and they're probably not going to have much talent left by the end of the year because just the pure fact they're going to try to trade it away, get some value out of it. Because will Mookie want to come back next year? I don't know. I don't think he will. And then you have David Price. He's getting older. You might as well just go ahead and trade him in case he gets injured in the future and just get what you can out of him and just try to rebuild your team and then wait out the Yankees and wait for them.
Make it sound so simple.
I know. I should just be a general manager, right? Just kidding. That would be super hard.
I mean, they've been looking to trade it, but that's not a contract that most teams just want to take on. So the Red Sox likely have to attach a decent prospect along with him.
I think there was talk about it might have been L.A.
Yep.
It might have been in L.A. Might have been L.A. talking about trying to do a trade with both of those two combined.
I think Gavin Lux was in there.
And like a prospect on top.
Yeah, he had a lot in there, I think, for him. Like, but I mean, the Dodgers would have a lot to offer for that.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about it in the next segment here. The amount the Dodgers have. There's 2 or 3 guys on the top 100 that are viable to be traded just based on the depth they have at the major league level.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to be. I mean, they're very slow to part with their top prospects. I mean, it was a big deal when they parted with Yusniel Diaz to get Machado, and he's kind of not even a top guy. They refused to trade Verdugo a couple years ago. It's a few years ago now. I'm getting old. I forgot.
Looks smart now.
But I mean, they're not gonna want to trade Lux. They're not gonna want to trade May. It's kind of a toss up when they get their top guys that they like. They don't want to move them. So that's really why they didn't get Kluber either.
Yeah, because those are the 2 guys you have to move to get any sort of big landing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At least one of them. You'd have to move at least one of those 2 guys.
Speaking of the trades and everything that's been going on, I mean, we had a couple trades this past week too, and we had one with Nomar Mozara going to the White Sox for Steele Walker, and I think that is a pretty good deal in its own right. I think that most of the White Sox fans that I know were a little bit upset by that deal, but I think in due time they're going to realize they got a really good deal. They got a young guy with a lot of power, not really good against lefties, but I mean, you could just platoon him or put him in the DH or something and just let him go. I don't think he was too good defensively. I think he had a negative D WAR. But I think that, honestly, what you get out of him is kind of what you need, a strong left-handed power bat.
I don't think the gripe of White Sox fans is with picking up Mazzara. I think it's with parting with Walker is more of the issue for them.
Yeah, I mean, I like Walker. Don't get me wrong, but you're hoping he becomes Mazzara, and Mazzara's already Mazzara, and Mazzara's still young. He was born in 1995. He's my age, so it's not like he can't still figure out and put it together and become Nomar Mazzara. But in 100 games at Advanced A last year, Walker hit 10 home runs. There's 124 WRC plus. Doesn't strike out a lot though. I like that. I think the best part about Walker is that he, I believe, shared an outfield with Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. But other than that, I mean, he's got a great name. But he's kind of just a power guy. You're hoping that he's going to be able to tap into it. Fangraphs gives him a 60 grade raw power, 50 potential or future grade on that game power. So you hope he's going to tap into something. But as of right now, I mean, you're getting a major league version of him. I don't see this as a bad deal at all.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it's only going to benefit them in the long run, and hopefully they could sign somebody too, because I know that they've really been looking at signing a couple people, and I mean, we can talk about it here in a second. But first, I mean, Corey Kluber also got traded in a move that I was a little bit surprised by, and it was just Delano to Shields, and there was another prospect in there. I think it's Clase, if I think that's how you say his name. I think that is a pretty good deal for the Rangers, and I don't know if it really puts them into contention right now, but I think that getting Corey Kluber on the cheap like that's not bad, and it also helps out the Indians a little bit too, with a little extra bat and potential guy in the future.
Well, the Shields is also a pretty solid outfielder as well. He's quick, doesn't have horrible routes typically, and I don't really know much about this Clase guy. I mean,
He's a high octane reliever. He's going to throw hard. He's going to have a slider cutter kind of deal, and
okay.
he's not a very well known guy, especially for the fact that he's got an 80 grade fastball. Um, he doesn't strike a ton of guys out. Overall, he'll do 8 to 9 guys. It's kind of like a almost a Jordan Hicks type where he doesn't strike out as many as you think he's going to, but he's going to create weak contact and he's going to be able to be successful that way. And obviously the Indians value him a lot, and I think that he could be a solid piece. I mean,
He's young.
had a 2.31 ERA last year in the majors in 23 innings. And he doesn't walk a ton of guys for as hard as he throws, or at least he didn't in 2019. So I think it's honestly a decent trade, a lot closer than people think. DeShields, I don't know why this tends to happen, but when he was coming up, he was a pretty highly touted guy. And all of a sudden, he has a couple years, and he's the fourth outfielder in Texas. And everybody's like, "Oh, they traded him for a fourth outfielder." But I mean,
He's solid.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's a pretty good deal all around, and I think Clase is going to be pretty good.
Okay. I mean, I guess we'll definitely see. 'Cause he didn't pitch bad last year for the Rangers at all, so it'll be interesting to see. But we can go ahead and move on here to the next part, and that's talking about the big free agents left. And I have 5 who I thought they were pretty important that were still out there and could make an impact on any team that they go to. And those are Ozuna, Donaldson, Keuchel, Ryu, and Castellanos. And I'm just wondering, who do we think signs next and where?
God, I hope it's Castellanos.
Donaldson's probably going to sign next. I mean, if you just go by the law of where there's smoke, there's fire, there's been the most smoke on Donaldson. So, in theory, he would be the next guy up. I don't even know when. I think the Nationals are heavy on him after losing Rendon. So that's an option. I honestly couldn't tell you, but I think Donaldson's the next to go. I think of the group, Castellanos is the most helpful out there if he goes to the right ballpark. You saw the difference between Comerica and Wrigley. It's a lot.
Oh yeah, I loved him in Chicago. he he was a big part of that Cubs lineup, and he was a big reason why. I mean, obviously, he's gonna get a lot of money based on what he did there.
I just like that his brother tweeted out, I think last week, that he just got a job at a brewery and Nick is unemployed. So he said, "I got you, bro."
Yeah, you're right about that one. That was funny because his younger brother was a pitcher, right?
Never made it out of A-ball.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. And then the other guy that doesn't really get talked about as much as he should is Ryu is a top starter. He's good. He's got to go to the right ballpark, agreed, but he's got everything you would want to be a guy that can help a contender today.
Man, yes, I think he's kind of inconsistent. I mean, I haven't looked at his numbers, but he's kind of just been an inconsistent guy out there. Sometimes he'll be great. I mean, his last 2 years have been solid, but also you look at his ERA versus his FIP. There's almost a point difference, if not over a point difference there in some cases. So, uh, I mean, he's solid, absolutely, but I don't know that you're going to be giving him, even Bumgarner money, not even close.
No, I
But
don't think you want him for that long either.
so we'll see where he goes, though. I think the Cardinals fans, at least on Twitter, seem to really want him. That would be interesting. The Blue Jays fans want him now too, after they just signed their Korean pitcher that they today, Shun Yamaguchi.
I think that it'll be interesting to see where Ryu ends up. I think that the Cardinals may be out of it now because of the guy they just signed, Kim, but I'm not entirely sure just because, but he's not a bad pitcher. I think his numbers make him look a little bit better than he has been. Especially, his FIP over the past 2 years was about a 3, and his ERA was bouncing around a 2. So I don't know. I think that he's a product a little bit of his ballpark, but he's going to be a solid pitcher wherever he goes. He's not going to be a Clayton Kershaw-esque guy, but he's going to be making you a decent amount of games that he's going to be pitching. You're going to have a chance to win. I mean, that's really all it comes down to for him. And he doesn't usually allow a terrible amount of home runs or anything like that. He's just been an average pitcher. Other than that, I think that he'd be a pretty good addition to any team.
An $8 million contract is not going to be the reason the Cardinals don't sign Ryu.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals just won't sign him because they don't like signing anybody. But don't get me started on that one. It's literally...
It's because the Cardinals were horrible. That's
they
why.
just think that they're good where they are right now. And if anybody watched the NLCS, because I was there for 2 of those games, we're not fine where we are right now. We shouldn't have beat the Braves.
No, that was rough. Those were rough games.
Yeah, shouldn't have beat the Braves. Somehow scored 10 runs in that one inning, and that happened. I don't know how that one happened. I was just like, well, okay, I guess we're going to the NLCS. But you need to see a move there. And I mean, Ozuna might sign back with the Cardinals. I wouldn't be surprised about that move, even though there's a backlog of outfielders at the Cardinals, and they need to get rid of some of them because not all of them can play. And also, you're going to need to make room for some guys we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But, I mean, might as well just jump into that and start talking about some of the prospects, the main part here. And who do you guys think is the number one prospect in your mind right now?
There is a wrong answer. Throwing that out there. But I'll let you guys go first.
I really like Luis Robert, to be honest, out of Chicago. Just he's going to be a very solid outfielder for them. I think he's got all the tools you need to be able to help that team win soon, and they're going to need it soon.
So I think that Adley Rutschman is one of my top prospects right now, and I think he might be number one for me just by the pure fact of what he can do and what he can be. I mean, in college, he had 17 home runs in his junior season, and he had a 4.11 batting average. He was pretty decent. I mean, that's college numbers or whatever, but I think that he has a lot of potential, especially for a guy as young as he is. And he might be seeing the major leagues very soon because, I mean, it's out there and the Orioles and their team's not really that thick with prospects. So I think that he might have an opportunity to do that, especially if he excels and is the kind of player that he can be. So he's definitely my number one right now.
Adley Rutschman is the best catching prospect in the game right now. Luis Robert is arguably the best outfield prospect. The best overall prospect, and this is not me thinking I'm smarter than anybody else. This is every prospect publication, every prospect tier, if that's what you want to call them, they're all smarter than me. Wander Franco is the top prospect in baseball. And it's close-ish. If you want to go by future value on Fangraphs, Wander Franco's given a 70 future value, which is ridiculous. And the 2 guys under him are Joe Adell and Royce Lewis at 65. Rutschman is a 60, but he's the first guy with a labeled as a medium risk. But still, Wander Franco is everything you could want in a baseball player. He is just open up what Fangraphs says about him. They say Franco is really close to the perfect prospect. Those are the first words they say. So he is the guy, and all the hype is as real as it can be. If you go watch video on him, whatever you want to do. You want to go look at his numbers, you can do that too. The hype is just about as real as it can be. And if you want to, good luck guessing which one he is, because there's a lot of Wander Francos out there. But
The youngest one.
He's the youngest.
Yes,
He's the youngest
See,
one.
look, even I just got it wrong now looking him up.
Yeah, because he's I think he was born in 2001. That is crazy to me. Yeah, we have guys.
Yes, he's 18 and he was worth 157
He can't
WRC plus. He was worth 157 WRC plus in advanced A ball. He struck out less than 10% of the time, walked 11% of the time. He only hit 3 homers, but I mean, everything about him is just simply amazing considering the fact that he is as young as he is.
He's 18.
Yes, and I keep saying weighted runs created plus. He had 157 in A ball. The benchmark for an average player with this stat is 100. So, I mean, all but consensus number one prospect in baseball at the moment.
That's just crazy. I mean, to see him, and he's a pretty balanced player too, at least from what I've seen. I definitely like him a lot. You know, I'm just
Oh, and I say only 3 home runs, by the way. He split between A and A plus. We had
So you had
9
9.
total. Yeah.
I mean, definitely has a lot of road to go to like Adley as well. So we're gonna see him hopefully soon too, because hopefully he just blows through the minor leagues, and that'd be fun to see another guy do that.
His ETA is 2021.
That makes sense. When didn't Tampa just bring up a new shortstop last year?
Willie Adames.
Yeah, wasn't he a rookie last year?
Yeah, he's more. I mean, he's a defensive guy.
Yeah,
Contact's not gonna have any pop. Wander Franco's got.
everything.
I mean, he has one tool that's 50, and it's his fielding. Everything else is 55 or higher.
Yeah, he is going to be a very solid
So
shortstop.
that is probably the number one prospect. After that, sure, Rushman, Robert, Adele, Mackenzie Gore, whoever you want.
Lots.
I mean, there's arguments there, but I think Wander Franco is kind of the big name and the top guy if you're talking prospects.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, especially to see him come up. And one guy who I was kind of considering a little bit was Gavin Lux. I think that he's not a bad player either. And I think like bringing it up earlier from one of the trade talks we were talking about, like Mookie and all that, like he would have to be in the talks for getting Mookie from the Dodgers. I think that he'd be a pretty good piece, especially in the future. I mean, his future value is 60 according to Fangraphs, so I think that he has some potential there. And I think that he might be better than what is even on there. Because, I mean, he didn't strike out too terrible much. I mean, but he did. He had a 18% strikeout and 14% walk. So he's pretty much even there, which I'd be kind of interesting to see, especially somebody to do that. And, I mean, in Double-A, he struck out a lot more this past year. So what do you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's solid. The hitting came on recently. He was never bad, but all of a sudden in 2019, he's worth 188 weighted runs created plus and 232 at bats in AAA. That's all sorts of ridiculous. Um, and he earned that late year call up in 2019 to the Dodgers. So I mean, there's not a whole lot you can say. Like he'll be solid. I don't know if it's just tough with Dodger prospects because you keep seeing him come up and they kind of tease him a little bit. They won't get consistent playing time. They're there. They're in uniform, but they'll play a little bit. They won't. You saw it with Verdugo. He's finally officially considered a starter, but with Dave Roberts, that just could mean 80 games. But you kind of see that it's going to be the same thing with Dustin May too, where he might spot start, then go back to the bullpen. It's just they're so weird with their prospects. The Dodger prospects are always hard.
And you can see that, and there's like always a random Dodgers prospect who comes up and then kills it, or they just sign somebody random and then they're just like they absolutely kill it. So it'd be interesting to see that. One guy who I absolutely cannot wait to see come back, who I mean I would still mention a prospect even though he's been injured, is Michael Kopech. And I mean I love this guy's fastball. I love everything that he can do, and if he can just gain a little bit of command, I think that we could see a reliable, hopefully dependable starter for the White Sox up there in Chicago on the south side. And, I mean, that'd be pretty interesting considering he throws the ball very, very hard. He was part of a really big deal, and I think whenever they traded away Chris Sale, him and Yohan Moncada. So what do you think about the potential of him coming back and what he can do for the White Sox?
Well, yeah, I bought all of his stock that I could in fantasy leagues, if that tells you anything. But yeah, he's a high velocity guy. He couples it with a slider, um, and so as you can imagine, throwing 99 with a wipeout slider, you blow your arm out.
Yeah.
It's just a math problem that happens in baseball. So he's going to be returning. I mean, TJ's not what it used to be, where it's a questionable death sentence. Most guys come back now.
Those guys come back better now.
Exactly. So I'm not really worried about Kopech. I like Kopech a lot. Um, Certainly an interesting name to watch because he should, if he can pitch well in spring training, he should have a chance to start in Chicago. If not, they might want to get his feet back under him and send him to Charlotte for a while. But it won't be long.
I hope so for the Chicago White Sox fans out there because, I mean,
The White Sox can just bank in this farm system. It's ridiculous. You talk about Robert. Robert's got the power and speed combination that you can die for. It's the best power speed combination in the minors right now. Not quite to the Acuna level, but Robert's got really nice power speed combination. Andrew Vaughn, they just drafted, is a stud. Um, he's got some pop, and Andy's got a good hit tool to go with it. I mean, Kopech is still down there. The guy that I like a lot, that I take a lot of flack for, Nick Madrigal. Um,
I do like Madrigal.
I know he was a good hitter coming out of college, and everybody knew that. He was drafted in 2018. He's already knocking on the door of the majors. But what's so good is he's just not necessarily to the point of Williams Astudillo, but he just has such a good hit tool. Um, he struck out less than 5% of the time at any level he's been at. He walks close to 10%. It's not amazing, but he doesn't. He just gets bat to ball, and he's got good line drive numbers too. So Nick Madrigal, I absolutely love him. I think he'll be a solid everyday second baseman. I mean, there's a reason that they got rid of Yomer Sanchez, and his name is Nick Madrigal.
Yep. And I think we might be able to see him next year. And Mr. I don't strike out. Like, he's legit. He just doesn't strike out. And that's something you love as a baseball coach and love as a baseball fan. That you get him out of the plate, you get a guy on third base, and he could just flip a little ball up the center of the field and ground out to the shortstop. Like, I mean, that's still productive, and that still means a lot in the game. So, I mean, as much as it is, sometimes you have those little guys who can just slap the ball, and that's really all you need. You don't have to have the guys who hit the towering home runs all the time. But, I mean, he has a little bit of power. He hit like a total, I think, of 6 home runs in the minor leagues, I believe, or something. I mean, no, he hit 4. So, I mean, like, he doesn't have much power.
He's got below average power. He's not going to be a home run guy. He'll hit line drives, but they're not going to be towering line drives over. They're just going to be line drives.
Yeah, but you just want him to go out there and get the ball in play. I mean, he's just that guy, and that's a role he's going to take, and I think he's taking that pretty well.
I mean, don't forget he's got plus speed. He's at 70 grade speed. That's fast.
That is faster than me.
Real fast.
I can guarantee that much.
Logan has 5 grade
Ooh.
speed.
You gave me 5. I appreciate that. I was giving myself like a 2 or a 1, but, you know.
That's still being generous, bud.
Hey, you know, big poppy speed. That's what I am. I'm that big 0 and the MLB The Show. But sometimes that just happens. I think one guy who I really am excited about, and me being a little bit of a homer here, is the Cardinals. And I love Nolan Gorman. I think this guy has a lot of potential value, especially in the future. I mean, he's rated a 55 value overall, but, you know, he has a lot of raw power, which is something that you want out of a third base guy. And especially with a decrease in Matt Carpenter, and then you've seen a little bit of uneasy playing in the field with the guys being able to hit and guys being able to do what they need to do. Somebody like Nolan Gorman could really come up and impact the Cardinals within the next 2 years and be a big bat alongside Paul Goldschmidt, hopefully. Because I don't know if Matt Carpenter picks it back up, but I mean, obviously he's trying harder. He's trying to gain weight this offseason, but, you know, good for him. Hopefully he does, but I'm still going to give him crap for it. And then I think, too, that just having him out there, and I think if he learns how to hit a little bit better, we could be seeing him really quick. And I don't know what you guys think about him, but
Nolan Gorman is a very good hitter. It was a really great draft pick by the Cardinals. Don't get me wrong. Expectations need to be tampered. The shine is off his apple right now, if you want to put it that way, but that's because he came into the league and took it by storm, and all of a sudden he gets called up to Peoria in his last year and struggles. And he comes back this year, he does well. He gets called up to Johnson City, and he struggles. This is the nature of high school bats. They're not as developed, they're not as far along, so it's not to say that he doesn't have the future with him, because he absolutely does. He's a fantastic hitter. I mean, I loved watching him when he was in Peoria. But there's just going to be a learning curve there for him that a lot of people didn't see coming or didn't want to see coming. But I think between him and Malcolm Nunez and Aluris Montero, there's a lot of potential for that third first base area.
I hope so for the Cardinals' sake. They need somebody out there that has a little bit more power and is able to do what they need to do. And I have another Cardinals prospect, but that's later.
It's the guy that's the top Cardinals prospect. Gorman's too.
Yes.
The top guys who Logan wants to talk about. as a low key guy though.
Exactly. He's my favorite. Leave him alone. He's like my Mike Trout. And if you're playing a drinking game, every single time we say Mike Trout, you have to drink.
Shoot, let me get my beer.
While Jacob goes to the refrigerator. No. But the next guy who I think is a really good player too is Jason Dominguez. And there's really not too much on this guy right now, but he has a lot of impressive comps. And that's why I put him up here on this list with us. And I think that he's really, really impressive because he has like comps of Bo Jackson, Mike Trout, I think even a Babe Ruth thrown in there. Mickey Mantle. I think that he's worth putting up there just because of some of his comps. But he's a 16-year-old switch hitting prospect, has a lot of power. I think that he has a chance to be a really, really good player. Of course, he's on the Yankees, so it's going to be a little tough for him to break into their outfield or break even onto the team. And we're probably not going to see him for 4 years, 5 years at the best. And I think that he's just somebody who could be really good in the long run. And I think that he's just someone who I'm a little bit interested in.
I think it's funny how you went from this guy's gonna be like the next Mike Trout to he could be really good. Like that is a huge difference right there. First off,
Oh no, that's what the comp say.
yeah, he can be a very good baseball player. I definitely agree, and he'll definitely help out there.
But Dominguez was the top international prospect. He was the prize this year, for lack of a better term. And it's because he's got what a lot of people can see as 30-30 upside. He's really young, obviously, but he's got the tools. He's a big dude already. I mean, there's video of his swing all over, and the guy's good. Let's not pretend that he's not. But it's just, for me personally, it's nice to see how they perform, on the professional level. But I mean, as an 18-year-old or 17-year-old, however old he is, he's already a lot bigger than me, and people would think he's older than me. So he's kind of got the size, and he's fast. He's got some raw power, and honestly, his hit tool is supposed to be pretty good too. So he's a guy.
Yeah, but I mean, this is.
But no, Logan,
we haven't seen a guy play an MLB game yet. How are you going to compare him to potentially the best baseball player in history?
Well, yeah, Logan's comps are awful.
Those aren't my comps. Those are what other people have said about him. I
want to know who you're talking to about him. It's very irresponsible what they're doing.
Hold up. Is it someone that's on a lot of drugs? Like, is that who you've been talking to about this
No,
guy?
I believe it was some of, I think it was MLB.com who said something about that. No, it was Fangraphs. Fangraphs compared his tools to a combination of Bo Jackson, Yasiel Puig, and Yohan Moncada. And he said it's like...
Combination does not mean exactly.
First off, it's a combination. Second off...
MLB.com called Dominguez one of the best international prospects available in years, a teenage Mike Trout.
I mean, he's 16 years old, and we're watching his swing right now. He's got the stuff. Let's be real about that, but let's be realistic about comps. And I think right now, since we're talking about a 16-year-old, let's say 30-30 as a ceiling, and see how that develops as he,
gets older.
Right.
He's 16. A lot of things can go right, but also a lot of things can go wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
You can't sit there and tell me that a 16-year-old is guaranteed to be anything, because he's still a teenager.
Guys like Bryce Harper, I mean, whenever he was 16 years old, he was getting talked about quite a lot. And I think there's, some guys you definitely hit on, and some guys, I mean, obviously you miss, but...
Well, wait, so if your comp is Bryce Harper at 16, he didn't turn into Mike Trout, he turned into Bryce Harper.
The fact that he is 16, because Hennessy was wondering about that, but... I mean, I think that he has a lot of potential. And obviously, some of the comps.
We're not arguing the potential. We're just arguing your comps.
Hey.
We're just saying that you're dumb for comparing anybody to Mike Trout in this generation.
I'm not the one comparing him. I'm saying MLB.com to compare him. But you know what? Sure, I compared him. I'll take it.
You're the one that said it.
I'm going all in.
Three of us here, you're the one that said it.
I'm going all in. He's Mike Trout calling it. What's the worst that happens? I'm wrong.
He's going to pass Derek Jeter before he's 11 years into his career.
I mean, honestly, if he turns into the next Mike Trout, I mean, I'll go to the next casino the moment he turns into Mike Trout, and I'll spend all my money at the casino. You heard it here first.
You're going to lose all your money at that
I'm not
casino.
even going to get to the point where I spend my money at the casino, and he probably won't turn into Mike Trout, but...
I mean, to be fair, Mike Trout's not even a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, no. He definitely does not deserve it. Not at all.
Well, no, he's only got 9 years. You need 10.
Exactly.
I thought he's at 10 now.
Was this his 10th year?
I think this was his 10th year. It took him 9 years to pass Derek Jeter's 20-year career.
He only has 73.4 F4, so for his career. Let's.
Let's not be too crazy.
Anyways, is there anybody else that catches your eye? Anybody else you want to talk about, Logan?
Absolutely. The guy who I really want to talk about, Dylan Carlson. I mean, this guy is really, really good. And I mean, a lot of the Cardinals faithful are trying to say to the general manager and all the teams, like, get him up there right now because we want him. But I think that's rushing it a little bit. And I really don't want that to happen. I mean, he's graded out to be a 50 future value. And I think that he has a lot of potential. Because, I mean, in 2019 in AA, he hit 21 home runs. I mean, that's pretty good. And weighted runs created, he had a 142 and a 161 in AAA. So, I mean, obviously, he has the level of talent that we need. It's just the question is, where do you put him in the outfield? I mean, honestly, the Cardinals outfield is stacked. So, where would he fit in? Obviously, you want a player like this out there, but you've seen it before with guys who have been pretty good in the minor leagues for the Cardinals in outfield, but they're just not being able to play right now. Last year, I think it was Arizona. He didn't have much chance to play, and then he had Lane Thomas. He didn't have much chance to play. So I think that it'll be interesting if he could get to the major league level and they just let him play 30 games and say, let's see what you can do. I want to see what you can do right now and see if you can help us and be what Marcell Ozuna kind of was and just play.
Dylan Carlson is not Randy Rosareno or Lane Thomas. Lane Thomas had no hype coming in. Randy had, I mean, he's a top 10 guy in the organization, sure. And I'm a huge Randy Rosarena fan, don't get me wrong. But they will find a spot for Dylan Carlson. They need to find a spot for Dylan Carlson. He was a 2020 guy last year across double and triple A in the minors, which is extremely solid. He ended the year in triple A, didn't get too many at-bats, and so he might start there again. I think he's probably going to start on the roster, or if not, it'll be a Super 2 situation. But I think they need to find a spot for Carlson. Carlson's different than a lot of these other outfielder guys coming up because he's more talented, I think is a good way to put it. I mean, I was a huge O'Neill guy when he came up. He has a ton of raw power and actually deceptive speed. Harrison Bader was always just going to be what Harrison Bader is.
Exactly.
But Carlson, relative to what he did last year, had been okay. I mean, he never had a WRC plus under 100 in his career, but relative to last year, he was never that good. There was so many adjustments that he made that really have helped him to catapult his way into the light that he's in. He found some national attention because he was playing so well, and that's because he didn't just improve. Like, he was changing things to be able to do it from both sides, a switch hitter. And so he's made a lot of adjustments to be able to really break out, and I think it's definitely real when you look at what his swing is versus what it was and what those numbers are and what he can bring to the Cardinals. They just need to give him that chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that he deserves that chance. And especially if they don't sign Marcell Ozuna, I think that there's going to be a chance that you're going to see this and he'll be able to come up. I just hope that he gets consistent playing time and he gets a chance to prove himself at a major league level and kind of adjust with it. Because, I mean, honestly, he could be a huge addition to a Cardinals team that lacked some offense at times last year. And that'd be pretty monumental for them. And I think that'd be pretty huge. Before we go, is there any other prospects that you really want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to talk about a pitching prospect. Out in Oakland, he was a first round draft pick in 2016. AJ Puck, obviously had the injury, had Tommy John, but he's got a plus fastball, a plus slider, and a plus curveball. That'll play at the major league level. Obviously, he's a 55 future value as a Fangraphs, and made appearances at the major league level last year, I believe it was. He was 2-0 in 10 games. I think he was all out of the bullpen. But that's still 11 innings of solid work out of AJ Puck.
Yeah, he's a 6'7", I believe, and a lot of weight lefty. 6'7", 238 lefty. You stand in front of that.
Yeah, no. that fastball's coming downhill at you.
And is there anybody else you want to mention, Trevor?
No, I mean, one of the things, obviously, that I would want to mention as a Tiger fan is this Tiger system. Casey Mize obviously at the top of it. Matt Manning, those are kind of the two-headed dragon in their pitching prospects. They get a lot of love. Tariq Skubal uh, is another guy who really has broken out. Baseball America, I think, had him as their third prospect, even, which is a little aggressive. But I mean, he's overall solid. He was striking out a million people a game last year, it seemed like. So he's definitely a name to watch. And I'm just going to keep going and give you names to watch. Bryant Packard's a hitter who is very unheralded, but I think you'll start hearing his name more. He's a recent draft pick of the Tigers. His hit tool is out of this world, and that's what helps him to be successful. Move out of Detroit over to the Reds. Actually, we talked a lot about them. They have Jose Garcia, um, who is I believe 21-year-old shortstop who is in A ball, but he really broke out this year and is definitely a guy to watch. He'll start climbing up lists. Um, I can keep going if you want. Joey Cantillo for the Padres is another guy. Um, he's broken out too. He was like a 14th rounder or somewhere around there, maybe 15th, and he's really broken out in the last couple of years to be a really fairly big deal. I think he's number 10 according to Pipeline in the Padres system. Bryce Terang, former first rounder, he gets not a lot of love. He's with the Brewers. Um, I mean, he's a top 100 prospect, but he kind of goes unknown. I've done drafts with people where we just draft top prospects, and I've gotten him well out of that range of um, where people should be if they're a top prospect, and that's because his hit tool is really underrated. And I'm just throwing out guys that you guys to watch out for. You want to go even to Seattle. Logan Gilbert is a potential two pitcher, I think, but he's a kind of a known commodity. And then you have a Relvis Marte. Um, I'm sorry, no, I got confused. It's Noel Marte, Noel Marte. Oh my goodness, there's so many. But Noel Marte has been described as a potential five-tool guy as he develops. He's super young. He's in the Dominican Summer League at this point. You guys can cut me off whenever you want. I'll continue.
All right, I'll give you two more. Two
One
more.
more.
Screw you, Logan.
Two more. I say I got to make them count now. All right. Well, I'll stick in St. Louis. John Torres is a guy that I really like, mostly because of his story. Um, he came over in that Oscar Mercado deal along with Connor Capel, and John Torres was a 5'8" kid who could swing a bat, kind of, and he was bad. And then all of a sudden, in 2018, he grew to be 6'5", and his hitting grew with him. That's what the Cardinals saw. They have him now. We saw him a little bit at Peoria. He struggled, overpowered by pitching a little, but I overall liked what I saw, um, and I think that he's definitely uh, a name to watch in that Cardinals system. And we'll go to the Angels. Um, a name that most people might recognize if you paid attention to big prospect names, Kevin Maitan.
Mhm.
He was a top international prospect for the Braves. He was the big name that got released when all their stuff went down with their GM. And he signed with the Angels, kind of disappeared, but he's only 20. It seems like it's been around forever, but he's only 20, and he kind of starting to put things together, I think. And I don't know that he'll be the superstar that everybody thought he will, but definitely a guy who could turn solid.
I mean, obviously, that was a lot of names in that was about a 5-minute period, and that was probably close to 25, 30 names right there about
This is what I do.
very good,
Yeah.
very good prospects. We're just going to jump into the last segment we like to do with all of our guests. So we got 4 questions for you. You're going to rattle them
Rapid
off
fire.
and just you give us your take. Number 1 is who's your way too soon 2020 World Series champions?
I mean, I know the obvious answers. I'm going to go out of the box and say the Cincinnati Reds.
Oof.
Ooh,
We have not got that one yet.
that's a new one. I don't think anyone said Cincinnati yet.
Yeah.
Well, nobody's probably been on here since they signed Moustakas and
Yeah, you've been the only one
and did
on
all this
since
stuff.
then.
But no, I think Cincinnati is my go for it because why be obvious?
Absolutely.
That's true.
I mean, who is your NL and AL MVP for next year?
AL MVP Mike Trout. I'll just go safe. after I just
Go
pick the
bold-
Reds, yeah.
bold predictions to Mike Trout.
I mean, how else do you do it?
That's the best.
NL, that's tougher. I don't think Yelich will win it. I'm gonna go Acuna.
Ooh.
Okay.
I'm really a believer that he's gonna hit that 40-40 mark next year.
Yeah, I could totally see it.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a great year this
Well,
year.
he was
in the
close
race.
and he got hurt.
He was definitely. We were talking about it late in the season, that dark horse, and then he got injured. And then the next question is, who is the most underrated guy of this offseason, you think?
Yes.
In an obvious way, Nick Castellanos, because he's not getting a ton of love yet, and he's just a solid hitter. He's terrible defensively. I mean, awful defensively.
He got better. He's gotten better, but he's still not great.
If you have to say he's gotten better, he's terrible.
He was really bad a couple years ago.
Yeah, but his bat will play anywhere. I mean, if he goes to the right part, if he can go to the Reds, and you have Nick Castellanos hitting a Great American Ballpark, oh my goodness. In another guy
That would
that's
help out your first
underrated.
prediction.
What?
That would help out your first prediction.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. So would I almost said Moustakas for the NL MVP. That would also help a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, the way his ball moved, the way his ball comes off his bat in Great American. Whew. But another underrated guy, and I'm only saying this because I thought this last year too, is Jose Iglesias. They're both former Tigers, of course, but Iglesias is just a solid contact guy who doesn't really get love for his hitting because he doesn't hit the ball far, but he gets on base. I mean, he does the job, gets some hits. He'll hit, probably north of 270, which is fairly solid. His glove is his calling card. So a team that's looking for a shortstop fill, it was the Reds last year, they get a good one with Jose Iglesias.
Then the last one here is, who is your surprise team of 2020? Not the Reds.
To be fair, he kind of already
Not
answered
the
this
Reds.
one, but can't be the Reds.
Not the Reds. All right, the Diamondbacks.
Okay.
I believe Luke Weaver got hurt last year, so you get Luke Weaver coming back. He's solid. Zach Gallen was an extremely good acquisition. I'm not just listing off former Cardinals, by the way. That's just how it worked out for him. But Zach Gallen was a really good acquisition, and he's gotten a lot more love lately once people have kind of seen what he is.
He's good.
Yeah. Weaver didn't get a full year last year, so he'll be good. And then Carson Kelly's there. I believe they still have Alex Avila. Avila left actually, but still, Carson Kelly's a solid catcher, and they have the rest of their guys. They just did a good job putting that team together. I mean, they made trades, and one of the guys, I can't remember his name, one of the guys they got in the Greinke trade was helping by the end of the year. That's good planning.
It is.
So I think the Diamondbacks will surprise a lot of people, especially now that you add Bumgarner into the equation.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, thank you for being on today, Trevor.
Thank you for having me.
Trevor.
If you ever want to get nerdy about prospects, not just the top guys, you just let me know.
You're the guy.
Get real in depth. All right, make sure you guys all follow us on Twitter. Obviously, we got our Dingerball page, Dingerball Podcast. Make sure you reach out to our parent company. They have a lot of good stuff coming out on their website, a lot of good blogs. Logan's written some, I've written one. Make sure you guys follow Trevor on Twitter.
At Hooth Trevor, and then Google any blog, I'd probably write for it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of good stuff about baseball and football as well, I believe now. So a lot of stuff coming out from everyone here today. So make sure you guys give it all a listen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dingerball. We really appreciate each one of you guys out there. So make sure you like, subscribe, and do whatever you need to do on Twitter, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any other way you consume your podcast. And please like and leave us a review or try to give us some feedback. We would absolutely love that. Once again, thank you.